I can't believe some of the online negativity I've seen. Let me explain.
Now Magic Door. He's got the runner inside Magic. He tried to shimmy and the sidestep. Yes, the 15. How good is that?
Welcome back, everybody. Further north, Joel is here. Second week in a row, mate. You're getting pretty popular around here.
Oh, man. It's good to be sticking around every now and then and pop in and talk footy, which I always love doing. So thanks for having me again.
Now, massive game at Marvel. Yesterday, we're recording this on the Sunday morning after the game. North Melbourne, unfortunately, go down to Collingwood by 45 points, which feels a bit unfair, 108 to 63. Joel, you were at the game. I wasn't able to make it, but I watched the broadcast. So I think this is going to be really interesting to see our different views on it, because the way I would like to start this pod is I put up a post pretty late just on Facebook. I wasn't really interested in doing Instagram and finding a new photo to post on a story. But basically, I'm really interested to talk about how you feel after this game, because the fan response, from my perspective, and this is my perspective alone, is overly, there was so much negativity and I don't really understand it. Now, spoiler alert, and I'll explain my feelings in a second after we get your thoughts. I'm still pretty positive coming out of that game. Now, some of the things I've been messaged, commented on the posts, seen people posting on the groups and that sort of stuff, so negative. It feels, this is the closest thing we've got to after the Carlton game for a month. And I know it probably is, it's the worst loss in a month, but as a performance, sometimes I think people obviously are emotional about the result, and that is completely fair, but it's how you deal with that. And I don't think after that game, the team deserves to be slated maybe the way that I've seen a lot of fans do it, which I think is very unfair. But just give us a quick overview on how you felt about the game, because we might not talk quarter by quarter. I think in this section of the pod, let's just talk about the feelings maybe during and after the games and just get an amalgamation of how you felt.
Yeah, well, I mean, coming into obviously the end of the third, you're sort of putting yourself into a good position. I turned to my mate at the day and said, if we can win one quarter here, we can win the game, because that's pretty much the mess that it boiled down to. They ran over the top of us, and, I think it's a fashion which I sort of expected them to get over the top of us. We kept them to a pretty low score. I think it was 108, which isn't below the 100 that I sort of aimed for us. So, but at the ground, it was an uneasy tension as you're going through that game and sort of seeing yourself performing well. But yeah, I'm vaguely positive. I hated the finish, obviously, in that last quarter where we were just non-competitive. I think the biggest thing that people are tending to point to is that they were missing quite a few players, but we've been missing quite a few players. Or we're not missing as many players, I don't think. But I always say good sides, and I think Clarko pointed it out well, good sides, it's system that you're playing. Like, the Doggies have had massive amounts of outs, and they're just been absolutely cruising through and performing exceptionally. And that's what good sides do, and that's the point we need to get to. Like, I'm not going to make excuses for us based on injury during podcasts. Not that we're there yet. But, I think that's what it came down to for a lot of the supporters. What was your feel after their game?
Mine's pretty similar to yours there, and I'm glad but also surprised, because, I felt a little bit last night like I was the only one with this opinion, but, and I know the internet is not a good representation of what the general public thinks, but you're 100% right with what you said. System is the most important thing over the personnel. Yes, they had a lot of outs, but I've said this for over a month now. That Collingwood team is one of the best teams I've seen for years, and that is the most airtight system I've seen for a long, long time in the AFL. And you're totally right. System is what we're building. We've got players that are talented, and you can see sporadic patches of games, 3 quarters here and there. We've got the talent to do it, but the system is not there. What I saw last night, especially the first half, and then Collingwood are so good they were able to take it away in the third, was a very, very different type of system and attack, sort of that we've never really seen before this season especially. That first half, chip mark, we've gone back to something we were trying at the start of last year, and we haven't seen that for about 12 months. But what I saw this time was it was a lot more fluid. We were moving into spaces. We were finding those easy marks and progressing the ball up the field. We weren't bombing it long. We were finding options. And I don't want to make excuses that, just because we played good for a half or 3 quarters means it's all okay. We lost the game. I want to win the games. But what we have to understand is we're 17th and we're perennially 17th. We've been 17th for half a decade. All right. So we need to accept that and understand Collingwood is a juggernaut. Yeah, we could have won. Absolutely. But those first 3 quarters being in the game, I think, are way more valuable than what we did in the last quarter. Is the last quarter good enough? No. But it doesn't mean sack Clarko. We don't have any good players. Labeling players online saying this person did this wrong. This person's a hack. I just thought it was pretty outrageous, to be honest. And I was a bit disappointed by those sections of the fan base that had that sort of reaction, because I think there's way more positive to take out of that first half, especially compared to the last quarter. Now, just to speak on what we did in that first half, what did you see at the ground from a tactics perspective or an offensive perspective that changed us a lot? Because I haven't seen us play like that since almost 2 years ago when North Ball got invented, basically.
Yeah, I think like the way I tend to view these things, and I've been seeing it, and I thought this would be the story of the game as well, was we're very good at keeping the ball in. We're contested. That's where we're building our brand, really. And we get really hurt on transition. And for big chunks of that game, we were dominating, percentage, dominating the front half, keeping the ball locked in. And then when they got that opportunity to swing and they got that one kick through, it looked really dangerous for them, like that transition. The first half, we really limited that, but they were still scoring from it when they were. I think they were going at like 50% or 40% roughly when they were going into 50 during that time period. And we had more inside 50s, but less shots on goal. But yet again, like where are they taking the shots from is really important to note, and the method in which we're taking ours. So honestly, in that first half, my feel in the game was we should have been further ahead. I think we're outplaying them significantly at that point without the reward. And then, second half, it sort of changed a bit. But, as we go through quarters, we'll talk about that. But, the second half, that vibe that feeling had changed, where they were starting to get a bit more, not on top in the middle until the fourth quarter where they blew us open. But that third quarter was more of an arm wrestle. And I think we did some things well and some things poorly. But it's interesting to watch to see what we've done.
And I think I'm trying to look at this, of course, from a positive lens, but I loved the way we moved the football in the first half. And when was the last time as a fan base we've seen that executed that well, especially? We tried to play that 2 years ago in the preseason. It didn't work. We tried to play it at the start of last year. It lasted for a little bit, but then didn't work. And I think it worked, or it clicked more than I've ever seen it click against the benchmark in the competition, even to 3/4 time. I think you're right. Like we should have been ahead 3/4 time, third quarter. I think they should have probably gained the lead in that quarter because they were missing a lot and we were lucky to still be in the game. But I really believe we've got to take that first half as anyone who says they can't see a game plan for North Melbourne, there's your package delivered, and then there it is. Because that's what we're trying to do. We've built this defensive identity a little bit over the last month, and we've still got so much to perfect with it. I'm not saying of course it's a finished article, but you can see what we're trying to do in defense, and the offense has been, what are we trying to do? Bombing it long, blah, blah, blah. I've been saying it for every episode for like 3 years on this podcast, right? But that was the first time I've seen it executed well and can see how we can attack without compromising our defense. And by the end of the game, that fell apart. But we just played the best team, in my opinion, by a mile in the competition. And we executed very, very well for the majority of the game. Yes, 45 points. It felt very much like the Gold Coast game.
Yeah,
we were playing
very
really
fair
well.
comparison.
Yeah. And then we just sort of fell apart in the last quarter. But with where the team's at, with where we've been the last few years, with the age of the squad, with the, how far from the pits we're trying to bring this club up from, God, that's a positive for me. And I really wish the supporter base, and I know a lot of you supporters listening to this probably feel the same as us as well, but I'm more talking about the negativity that comes across online. I really wish that side of the fan base who feels that way can look at these things and understand we're not in the position to beat Collingwood yet. I don't care about beating Collingwood, Brisbane, Hawthorn. I don't care about beating those teams right now. It's not linear, but it's gradual with progression in the AFL. We're not Hawthorn. We're not going to click and all of a sudden it explodes. We need to beat the Saints. We need to beat the D's. We need to beat the Tigers. We need to beat Essendon, West Coast, Port Adelaide, Fremantle. Those teams around us, That's what we need to be focusing on. And I really believe that if we can do that against the Pies, yes, they had injuries, but it's the system that makes that team so, so good. You've seen Frampton and Markov and so many other guys who probably wouldn't get heaps of games in other teams come into this system and look really, really solid for them. And that proves how good the system is. If we play that way against West Coast after the bye, if we play that way against Fremantle, we're probably coming out with 2 wins, mate. Because that first half offensively gave me so much confidence that 1, Clarkson's got a game plan. 2, the game plan will come together. And 3, we've got the players to execute a game plan on the offensive and defensive side of the ball. So I'm coming out with a lot of confidence in it. Give me your little spiel on that, because how did you feel with maybe our combination of offense and defense? I mean, what did you see at the ground offensively that was making you feel confident that we could get the job done?
Oh, it was really fascinating watching because, like, I like sitting up high enough so you can sort of see the structure unfold. And a lot of the time we were doing that swinging around, and then they would take on that a bit more risky 45-degree kick into the centre at, when that was on. A lot more corridor work, yep. A lot more corridor work. And that's when we were actually probably getting our best movement, I would say, at the time. Like that first quarter, we really, like the couple of goals they scored were from just really poor turnovers at the time. But you sort of expect that with a team that, like us, who's sort of developing, and that when we were hitting those kicks in board, we were getting to the right position to have those long kicks in the right position to try to hit up marks. I don't think it came off as well as it could have, but I think we did a lot really well. And the thing that really impressed me, like there's players on the field that you don't sort of see as much in the stats than that, which would be like a Jack Darling's work around the field, him protecting the people taking the marks, him creating other leading patterns was really, really good on the day. And I was very, very impressed again by Toby. Pink did really, really well in a lot of spots. He a couple of times was leaving his opponent, which is a really risky thing to do, but that's the kind of risk you need to take. And he's impacted the contest enough to either stop it or put it out or to create the mismatch in numbers. And he didn't really get caught out the other way, but that's a real skill and that's a real asset that you don't, it doesn't get seen. Like what gets seen is when his opponent kicks a goal over the back, but what you don't see is why he left his opponent to make that play. And I think he did exceptionally well in that space last night. And I mean, when we start talking about individuals, there's a few really bright shining stars, and there's one that I imagine that everyone's probably talking about today for us, but I'll wait for that.
Just to settle down, mate. Settle down. We'll get there. The third. Let's talk about the third. I mean, that's pretty good coverage of sort of the first half, I guess. I mean, it was just smooth ball movement, and what you sort of said was right. A lot more corridor work. Yes, there was a couple of turnovers. Like Dylan Stevens, I think was running around doing a lot of great stuff, but then his kick over the top. I can't remember the player that intercepted it. It's those little things, and that is the stuff we should be frustrated with, but his idea was correct. Get it into the corridor, open the game up. And the times that, and a player like him and many other players, Powell's and, McKerches and even Fino Sullivan, those players have this tendency to sort of, they'll do that a couple of times a game and you'll be like, okay, good, you're meant to do it. And then they'll do one wrong and we'll be like, oh, he's rubbish.
Yeah.
And I've been victim of that. Of course, I'm a fan, I'm emotional. You've been the same, you know. So I love the game style we tried to play. It was very evident from the first bounce to me that this was completely different than anything we've done this season. And I guess maybe my overarching point, just to sum this bit up, is we did something completely different from the first bounce. We executed it really well for a half and then defended really well in the third quarter to remain in the game against the pinnacle of system in the AFL. That is so much more positive to take than negativity from one last quarter. So hopefully we've settled down a little bit this morning. The fan base is a bit more chill. Hopefully you're listening to the Further North podcast. You're not going to hear me say this if you're not. And we can all have that sort of opinion because, like I said, I really believe if we play that way for against the majority of the bottom 8 to 10 teams, I think we could win them, honestly.
No, absolutely. You're entirely correct. I mean, the third quarter, obviously, I think what happened in that, from my view, is they started getting top a bit more on the clearances and we were sort of forced into a different situation where we were defending a bit heavier. Our defense, I thought, held up very well. Like a lot of their shots that they missed were deep and wide, which is where you want to be forcing them. They're against the boundary line. They're 40 metres out, 50 metres out. If you're forcing those shots, like you're not going to be able to defend the whole 50 a lot of the times, but if they're the shots that they're taking, you're accepting of those a little bit more than you would be from anything corridor or obviously anything closer. In fourth quarter, obviously, we just it looked like we just completely ran out of gas. The system really, really broke down for us. Like you could see and I think a few of the footy shows have probably talked about it this morning already, where you sort of see areas where we're not zoning as well as we were. But by that stage, the break has come at a good time for us, I think. We looked really, really tired in that last quarter, and we just weren't doing the same things that we're doing in the first few quarters, and that's what it comes down to.
No, you're totally right, yeah. Credit to the defense in that third quarter. You know, I wrote a note saying the same thing. Charlie Comben, I think it was the third quarter, running back with the flight. I think there was a 2-on-1 to the Pies, and he just sort of crashed over the pack and put it through for a behind. And that was a moment that the Pies, I mean, if I was a Pies fan, I'd be filthy they didn't make a goal out of that. And it's those sort of efforts we've got to talk about. Toby Pink was fantastic again. You're right, leaving his man at the right times and not bringing nearly everything to ground and forcing a contest. His rebounding 50s from him as well is really, really solid and things like that. And he's not a bad disposal of the football. There was a couple of times he got the ball and he ran into some space and almost got up to the wing and put it into the forward line as well. So I like how that defensive unit is starting to look. Yes, the breakdown in the fourth quarter, but if there's any team in the league that can break you down, it's Collingwood. So, look, not good enough. 45 points doesn't tell the story of the game, but we played the top team, and I think we need to chill out a little bit. I don't want to excuse, the drop-off because it was really bad, but the Pies started getting the inside. They were better on the outside nearly all game, which we talked about. I talked about in the preview with Nick. But once they got the clearance battle won, you're just not going. No team in the league will stop them. Yeah, and we just fell victim to that, to be honest. But once again, I'm taking more positives out of this than I am negatives. If we did that against the Saints or something like that, I'd be like, God, that's just not good enough. But this is the pinnacle of the comp. All right, let's talk about the defense as a whole for the game and maybe some more individuals. Key position-wise, I mean, look, we've touched on Chom and Toby Pink, but I think Aiden Cole played really solid in this one. I think all our key position players were solid enough. We didn't really give up much to the tall forwards. Your my checks and your memories. I mean, they what a memory kick a couple or something like that. And my check, to my knowledge, I'll just look up unless I've got this completely wrong. But memory kick 3, my check kick 2, yeah. But with the amount of entries they got, I don't know. It didn't feel like they absolutely slaughtered us, and our key positions were bad on the day. Yeah. Did you sort of agree, or what do you reckon?
I thought we kept their keys in pretty good order. I mean, obviously, Elliott's the one, not that he's a key tool, Elliott's the one that got off. I think he tended to take our third back at the time. Might have been Core at stages. And I'm assuming Pink probably rotated across a few times. But it's a team effort in that space with him often. And so that Chum can usually get a bit more free to help influence other contests. So, with the exception of Elliott, I thought we kept most of them. Myercheck, I didn't particularly view as dangerous until, later in the game. And same thing, Membry was pretty well held until I think the second half. And second half, he started to get a bit more when the ball was coming in a bit more regularly. So I wasn't our defenders as a whole, I wasn't too upset with. Obviously, Caleb, I thought held himself pretty well and acquitted himself very well in the defensive transitions. He brought a couple to ground that he shouldn't have had a right to. And he was pretty good around the field. I mean, the one, Mac as well has just been very reliable this year. The one that obviously we're going to point to and have a fantastic game was Riley. He just has gone to another level these last 2-3 weeks. A couple of the defensive stops he made were really, really good. Made a few errors by foot, but I think that they've given him a bit more latitude now to take on those dangerous kicks. Often you see those people, as you well and truly pointed out with your Pinks and your Daniels, is we're paying them to take those dangerous kicks. They're going to make errors, and the errors that they make are going to look the worst because they're taking on the trickiest kicks. I think Riley's been given a bit of latitude now with that so that he can take on that kick a bit more, and I think it's really paying off. I think he's doing a lot well, from the start of the year when we said he was sort of having a great off-season to now that he's in the side, it's really hard to see him. It's hard to see how we bring someone else in that's not him. It's when Archer comes back in, it's going to be he'll come back in, you would assume, but it's going to be tough to bring him back in over Hardiman, and I think McDonald's been doing his role really well. So, but yeah, Riley, a lot of meters gained, a lot of disposals, doubled his highest, really a lot of intercepts and a lot of clearance punches, and really courageous going back with the ball. A lot of positives to take from him.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. 776 meters gained, 28 touches, 20 of them kicks as well, and 10 marks, which is fantastic from him. That was the best game he's played at AFL level, and he's pretty undroppable at the moment. I really like I think you bring Jackson Archer back on top of those guys, to be honest, and maybe the one to look at is getting rid of a key defender because Jackson and Riley could potentially play higher than they are. I like Core in that hybrid role. I mean, look, yeah, he did play on Elliott. But I don't think a lot of Elliott's goals were directly cause for it. You're right, it's a team thing, and it's when the ball hits the ground, you're really relying on your McDonald's and your Hardemans. And look, Hardeman's fantastic, but no tackles for the game. Just want to point that out there. And it's not a dig on him. It's just more talking about our ground presence in our back 50. You know, I think that's why Elliott gets off the chain a little bit there. So, yeah. Our running guys, I mean, look, Hardeman, the penetration in his left foot looks fantastic. And
incredible.
He puts that ball 50 plus, down the wing every single time that he kicks it. So, yeah, he was fantastic. Caleb Daniel, I think most touches on the ground, for us, sorry. Not for Collingwood, but for us, yeah. With 30 and 550 metres gained. But also got 2 goal assists as well, Caleb Daniel as well. And we saw last week his little move to sort of go from the right to the left foot and hit up, Zerha in the goal square. And maybe with Hardeman back there playing so well, it's giving him license to play a tiny bit further forward, and maybe he can push up to the wing. And then with the space we created from the movement, there was more room in the corridor, which means he can get forward and maybe deliver a little bit more. So, I think, another overarching point to maybe the entire team and the criticism is we're still finding this system out. And we're still figuring it out. And I think we figured out a lot of things in that game, even though we didn't win it and the last quarter was poor. Defensively and offensively, I think we really figured some stuff out on where players can be utilised. And when a Jackson Archer comes back, I hope that a Jamie Elliott doesn't do that, and maybe we're in the game or something like that. Or, if Whitlock or Will Dawson come on, then we can play them instead of a core, and then we've got our, group there and that sort of stuff. So that's maybe the way I'm trying to look at it. Anyone else from a defensive point of view here? I mean, I've really enjoyed maybe Dylan Stevens' link up from the defence through the midfield a little bit more. And he had a couple of contests last night that he needed to put his body on the line, and he won a fantastic sort of one-on-one on the wing before his turnover. And I was just thinking, wow, like finally he's getting a bit more physical. And then he turned it over and it was unlucky. But, I like his link up, and I think that's also let Caleb Daniel be a little bit more free. His work down back has been pretty decent. And I mean, other than that, I mean, Finn O'Sullivan again back there sort of playing that similar role, strong in the hips, a really good ball user. I mean, early on he was really lively and definitely fell away, unfortunately, through the game. But, we're getting a decent little mix of medium to small halfbacks and defenders down there. And when Archer comes back on top of it, I think we're looking okay.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, like there's a lot of positives to be taken away from that back line. It's so much more functional than when we've had these different people through. I mean, like people as well sort of commenting about, I guess the plans of Clarko and what he's been doing. Like Clarko has been sitting a lot of highly paid players in the reserves now, like Logue. It was a really brave move to move Logue to the seconds and to leave him there as he has. He put Core to the seconds and left him there. Like he's not, he's swinging the axe, he's making the moves, and like the club's been benefiting as a, response to this. So I think, Clarko's trying a lot of things, and there's a lot of people getting the opportunities now. So I was happy with Pinky, and I think Pink's been, I said he'd been in the off-season training exceptionally, and I said he was going to play games this year, but the level that he's playing has even surprised me as someone who's been watching him and seeing him improve so much. I mean, like at the moment, like credit to him, like he's holding out Logue, who's a guy that's probably on, arguably 5 or 6 times his salary probably at this point.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, no, so true.
Hey, Josh, Jen here. Well, the first 3 quarters was solid, but that last quarter was crap. Gotta be better than that. And they had half a team out. Come on, lads. Anyways, on to the next game against the Eagles. And if we don't beat them, let me tell you, that'll not be good at all.
I will say this much. What a year Hardeman and Stevens are having. I mean, the stars have aligned for Dill the Drill Stevens. And Hardeman, I mean, what an absolute gem. Can't get much harder than that man right there. And boy, we have someone. So those two can hold their heads up high.
As you said, Josh, 3 good quarters of footy, but I still think we needed Will Phil in the centre in that last quarter to curve Nick Dacos. Boy, we missed him. Could have been his redemption round.
Talk about taking the PI 55 for 3/4 of the team on top of the ladder to only be reduced to that. Just deflating. No respect for ourselves. We completely just capitulated.
Let's chat about midfield, and something I just want to point out before we're going to point out individuals here, but it's a whole group midfield thing. I mean, the first thing to point out is the tackles. You know, there was barely any tackles laid by our midfield. I mean, George had 4, Simpkin had 4. We're talking about like 4 tackles each for people, 3 for Powell, Parker only 2. You know, Sheezer 1, O'Sullivan 1. You know, McKercher no tackles after such a fantastic game last week as well. It's just not enough tackling, and I posted the tackle numbers, you know, which were, and I know this is for the whole game, and you know, just for across the ground. So this maybe isn't necessarily a midfield thing. I've got the numbers here. Like for the game, I mean, 49 to 90 tackles, which is just ridiculous, and that starts in the midfield because that's where the ball is majority of the time. Tackles in the forward 50, we had 10, they had 20. So they doubled our forward 50 tackles. So, you know, I think if we can do that and put a bit more pressure on them in the second half, we arguably, you know, win the game as well. But the main thing to point out, aside from the tackles, just numbers-wise, is you look at some of the players who just aren't getting around the ball. I mean, look, not a fantastic Parker game. I mean, Sheezel had 20 touches. Unfortunately, maybe just a little bit of a nothing game from Sheezel. Didn't do anything wrong at all, and 5 clearances for the game, you know, 20 touches and did a couple of good things, 8 marks, but, you know, didn't maybe impact too much. I mean, Parker, 16 touches, Finn O'Sullivan, 13 touches, Colby, 13. George Wardlaw is the one where, you know, only like 191 metres gained and 11 touches for the game. And his attack on the football, you know, his bloody nose, him strapped up like that. I think we're going to see that a lot more in his career because he's ferocious. But then when you look down at the numbers, he had 1 tackle. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Great tackle.
Which it was a fantastic tackle. But, sorry, I had 4 tackles. I looked at the wrong number. But, you know, it's 11 touches for him. He just needs to find a way to get the ball more and to impact the game. It's almost like what I was saying about a Dylan Stevens is like when he gets the ball, I like it. You know, he does good things with the ball, but he just doesn't find the football. And now he's finding the ball a bit more in the last month. We're seeing that he's an AFL player. Wardlaw, we know, I'm not questioning he's an AFL player, but what I'm more saying is like, how do we get this man more touches? Because when he touches the ball, things happen. So, you know, Fisher had 6 touches in the last quarter, so had half, you know, more than half he's disposed in a quarter, and he played the whole game. So, you know, what do you think it is about the midfield as a whole in this game that maybe didn't step up?
Well, I mean, I would argue that the first half particularly they did, and like you would like, I mean, X like was incredible in that first half, and then still played well, but he was a lot more well managed after the halftime. So, like, I mean, you've got to give credit to Collingwood and the systems they put in place around him. Same thing with Kirch. Kirch came on absolutely on fire, was involved in everything, and then whatever moves they've made have quelled him. And this is the kind of development that you need from these players, is to be able to get these tags and break them. George, the last couple of weeks, has been quite down on disposals and seems to not be getting to the ball as much. I'm not sure what's happening there, but like he needs to probably, you know, I mean, these are the kind of battles, like usually it would have like one monster quarter. He hasn't had that for a little while, but he needs to start developing that kind of stuff, which yet again, time will help with that. Tom Powell, LDU do what they do. They got high possessions. I think they were pretty impactful for most of the game.
Simpkin as well, I'll throw in that. I think Simpkin was really good.
Jai's having a very good season at the moment, a very, very good season.
And he's had a good patch. I mean, I think it's maybe questionable in those few weeks we got smashed that, you know, the turnovers and stuff. I don't want to just forget about that. But his especially last couple of games, I think he's been really, really good.
If he's not second in our BNF at the moment, I don't know. The only other one you'd probably argue is probably Tom
Curtis
Powell.
Cherry. Yeah.
Cherry's number 1. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
No. But it's been a good watch of, I mean, Jai I thought played well. But like, same things, I agree. It's just like we've just got those guys on the peripheries that need to stay longer in games. Like Simpkin got a lot more centre bounces, I thought, this game. Kirch, after his first quarter, I think he had like 11 in the first half and then 3 for the rest of the game. So he got tailed after that, really. But you can see those moments. If he can stay in games longer, if Wardlaw can, come into games and like Wardlaw, it's all engine. He needs to work on his engine, and that's why, when he does his hammy and that, it sort of is a big pushback for him, particularly, is he's building that towards it. Parker's had a few quiet weeks now, but yet again, I'm not too upset. Like, he does a few big leadership things in big moments. He's teaching these guys on the field at the same time. It's just, the defensive running today wasn't. Or not defensive running. The defensive running was there. Collingwood's system to move the ball between transitions and knowing where they're going to be and knowing their game plan exceptionally well is really, really good. And North will enter the ball pretty well into 50, which we did for most of that first half. And then when they got that one time where they would break the lines, they were off and they were hitting targets and they were getting a shot on goal on the other side. We don't have that capacity with our mids at the moment, and I think that's what hurt us in games like this.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. It's, those 3 guys, LDU, Powell, Simpkins, really carried us through the guts. But it's supporting them, I think, and that's maybe what we sort of lacked. And you're right, like all those players we named with the lower touches, their first halves, can't really question it, to be honest. Finn O'Sullivan and McKercher, almost like the Richmond game, I was like, wow, these guys are really stepping up. They made some really big plays and broke the game open a lot for us. But it just ended up fading away, to be honest, which is disappointing. But hey, young team and playing against the number 1 team in the comp, it's bound to happen. Let's talk about Cherry. I think he was very good. I mean, look, his base level he's never going to get under a 7 out of 10 playing. He's so good. But I think Cameron did a really good job maybe limiting his impact out of the middle. He's still got, plenty of centre bounce attendances and clearances and things like that. I mean, 7 clearances for the game, 21 CBAs. He's always in there except for Darling. Kicked a fantastic goal out of the ruck in the first quarter, I believe, if not maybe the second. But maybe not the domination that we've seen the last couple of weeks. And Cameron's been a fantastic ruckman this year for the Pies. But the only thing I want more from Tristan is a little bit more around the ground. I want him to take those marks on the wing when Hardeman dump kicks it, and just puts it up, and the pressure's sort of relieved. But how did you see his game overall? Absolutely not an X on his game. He was good, but do you agree? Maybe not quite the dominant performance that we've seen.
First half he was that dominant. I felt like around the ground, the marking, so many times he pushed off his opponent, just took the ball out of the ruck and gave us massive field advantage. Second half, I think they really nailed him down a lot more. Like, they obviously put a lot of work into that second, and that was probably not strangely coinciding with our lack of clearance dominance at that point is when they started to play him a bit differently. It almost felt like the person that was rucking against him all the time would either wait for him to grab it, which he does a large amount of the ruck, like he'll grab it out of the ruck and dump kick it. They'll wait for him to grab it and then tackle him, opposed to trying to contest with him as much. Because if he's got body on them early, he tends to be able to be strong enough to push them off. So there's a few things there, but that he'll work. But second half was when he got a bit more held, I thought. But first half, I thought he was very, very good. So we'll see how. I was very happy with his game overall, but when the whip started cracking in the second half, he started to fall off a bit, which will happen occasionally, I'm guessing.
And maybe one more just to point out for the midfield, Tom Powell. I've been a critic of Tom Powell, but I think he was really good in this game. Really, really solid player. Let me just look up his numbers here, but plenty of touches and used the ball pretty well. I mean, 28 touches, 18 kicks, 10 handballs, 5 marks, 3 tackles, 4 clearances. A pretty solid game overall, and kicked a nice goal on his left foot, snapping sort of on the backside of a pack from pretty far out, to be honest. So
it was actually a great goal, that one, I thought.
Yeah, so just wanted to point him out. I mean, look, didn't break the game open or blow my mind at all, but really, really solid performance from him. And, that I personally think that needs to be his bare minimum. That needs to be the standard he sets every week, and it's that or above. And I think he was one of the better mids for us today. Yes, that being said, in a group that maybe didn't shine too much, but really solid game by Power. Didn't make the big mistakes that he can tend to make, like a Simkin, like a Wardle, like an LDU can sometimes do. Our midfield unit as a whole felt cleaner, I think, as well. Like, we didn't seem to bomb the ball away quite as much until the Pies maybe started getting on top out of the middle. And you saw LDUs lower the eyes and Powers and Simpkins and that sort of stuff. And there wasn't maybe the clangers from them that we can get used to. So, shout out to the midfield, battled, but once the Pies got on top, our defensive pressure sort of went back to Carlton levels where we couldn't lay a tackle and couldn't stop the transition. But like I said, their system, elite, and I think we'll be better against a slightly lesser side. Forward line. Let's have a crack at that. Do you want to point out anyone who caught your eye up in the forward line?
I mean, like, you can talk about the standards. Like, I thought Zerha, with limited disposals, kicked quite a few goals and was very impactful. He took a few really nice grabs. Larky, I thought, was actually one of his better games in the past month and a bit, like, particularly that first half. He was taking a lot of marks up the field. I think he had more possessions in the first half than he had in the last game. Got a bit more quieter as the game went on, but, like, the ball wasn't coming down as much, to be fair. One that I think has one of my favourites, who's probably a fan favourite at this time as well, was Moose, and just his ability to contest on everything. Like, when the ball comes near him, they're always worried about him actually marking it, and not just marking it, like his ability to hit packs, bring the ball to ground in a predictable manner. He is, like, when those long kicks happen, like, I don't overly trust, like, a Larky to take those marks. I don't overly trust the Zerha to take those marks, but you just know that Moose is going to hit that pack and he's going to hit it hard. And, there's a good chance that he might bring that ball down with him. Like, he was the first quarter, I'm not sure, I'd have to see the replays of him, but it looked like he had 2 near mark of the years. Like,
there was one that should have absolutely been a mark to him as well.
And they didn't pay.
Just absolutely robbed him of it.
It looked stellar on the field. He was on the other side of the ground and you see him standing on someone. I mean, he's an exciting prospect, or just an exciting person to watch at the moment. And he went back and kicked a nice one, and I think he missed the other one, I think it was. Did he get one and missed one? I think that was how it worked for him.
Did he kick one for the game? Did he kick one? I don't think he kicked one. No. No, I think he scored a point.
Oh, no, he missed that one that he should have kicked.
Yeah.
He kicked a point to that one. It was a nice post. Yeah, that was it. I remember watching it with some guys there, and they're like, it might come to us at this point. He should have kicked that one, in fairness.
Well, I mean, that's the big knock on him, isn't it? And we're seeing it every single week. I like him. I think his marking ability is fantastic, and the raw potential's there. But geez, just even if he was a 20% better kick, he'd be kicking goals every single week.
Oh, absolutely.
So, yeah, I don't know. I like him. But
I'm backing him.
And I want to back him as well. But if there's someone who's knocking the door down who can kick straighter, I think we've got, say Will Dawson kicks another bag of 3. I think we might need to try and make a little swap there. I just don't want it to be a situation where he's taken a mark like that, like the Bombers game. If Nick Larkey had the ball, I know he can't maybe kick quite as far, but you know what I mean? Like, if Zerha or Larkey had the ball in that Bombers game at the end, I'm feeling a lot more confident, and I want to give him a run, and he's getting a run, and he's done really, really well. But at the end of the day, if he's just shocking in front of goal, mate, and someone else is knocking on the door, you've got to say, look, you've had your run, you go back and you make sure your kicking improves, and then you can go take his spot back. But I know we love him. Every time he jumps to the ball, we all yell Moose. You could hear it on the broadcast, mate. It sounds like everyone, when Sard kicks the ball and everyone sounds like they're booing him, but they're not. That's what Moose has got now. He's every time he goes to take a mark, everyone yells Moose, and
it's great.
You could hear it on the broadcast. It was really, really loud too. So cult hero status, but I don't want to be 5 points down. He's 25 out directly in front. Because it's 50-50 maybe at best. So, look, I love you, Moose, but please let's get in the lab, get that kicking a little bit more confident, get the run up a bit more confident, and maybe you can be our premiership winning forward.
I'll back him. I like him. The other ones, obviously, just in that forward line of, I guess, short note, was Darling. I said he does a lot of unrewarded things, which I think is really, like, protecting the person going for the mark. He does exceptionally well. Leading to patterns. Like, when you watch him on the ground, there's so many subtle things that he does that won't show up on a stat sheet, and you'll get your talking heads on the radio, like your Kane Corns and that saying he's adding nothing, he's useless. No, he's tremendous value on the game. Watch him when he doesn't have the ball. Like, for people,
his body work is fantastic.
Yeah, and just what he does to protect the other players and what he does to lead in patterns in that. Like, there is so much that our forwards will be learning from him, and they'll be better players because of him. The other obvious one was JK. Constantia,
6 tackles for the game.
Yeah, he's at the start of the year, I'll say it every time, at the start of the year, you're not sure who's going to be that player. He's stepped up and taken it. He grabbed it with both hands. Like, that's why Hanson Jr. is sitting in the seconds, and that's why, Geordie Payne, who's really, playing really well.
Cooper as well.
That's why they're sitting out at the moment, is because him and, we should probably also mention the return of Paul Curtis as well.
We'll get there.
Yeah. But JK, really happy. He's done a lot. I think he deserves a lot of praise for being the steak knives in that deal. He's, I think he's, he's going to be a play for us for a number of years still. Like, I think
he's only 20 again, like we've mentioned before. And, most tackles for us on the ground. Kicked another goal this week. Yeah. It will be like a couple of goals, 2 or 3 maybe. Yeah, but he's 20 years old. Give him a little bit of time. I think he's doing the right things. And like how I want people to look at North Melbourne as a team, we can't just expect the best right now. We need to be patient, and it is going to take a few years. I'm still firmly in the belief it's 3 years minimum till we make finals, and 3 to 5 years more in that age or that sort of time frame, to be honest with you. So, and some people are going to lose their heads at that, but that's just the reality of the situation. And we've got a lot of players like that. Like, how many people would have delisted a Dylan Stephens this last year, and then this year we're like, oh, he's a good player. Or you could name, so how many people didn't want Darling, and then all of a sudden we're like, wow, he had a few bad weeks like a month ago, but he's been really, really solid for us. You can just go through and name a bunch of players like that. McDonald, how many people wanted McDonald just gone from existence, and he's having a really solid year, especially with Archer going down. So, look, there's so many of those types of players, and we have to be a little bit more patient knowing where our team's at. Try and look at the raw things they're trying to do, and maybe if they don't execute perfectly, if the intent is there and progression happens, then that won't happen every single time with the clangers and that sort of stuff. So let's talk about Paul Curtis. Actually, before we get to that, one thing I wanted to ask on Finbar, do you think it was the right sub to make?
I thought he, at the time, was actually, I thought he would be the sub, but I thought he was actually adding something that the others weren't. Like, because he was, but like, that being said, the thing with Finbar that, different from take away the gameplay, because I think he was actually adding a lot from a game style. I think the thing that I would say that he added more than anything else, or the thing that he needs to work on, is his engine. He's known to not have a great engine at the moment. He runs out of gas pretty quickly. So I'm not sure. Like, the question mark for me is how well he was ready to run out that last quarter. If that was the case, the sub's correct. If it's tactical, I don't think that was the right sub in a tactical sense for me. But I'd imagine it was probably for the early on where he's just starting to run on fumes a bit more.
Yeah, I'm just trying to have a look who else could have potentially been subbed off, and it's harsh, but the only other ones, I mean, maybe you could make a change for an O'Sullivan or a McKercher because they really weren't impacting the game late on. But then, I guess Fisher is more of a like for those players where you take Finbar off and you try and get the run going a little bit more, I guess. So look, maybe a little bit harsh because he was an aerial threat, but it's probably the right substitute to make.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, I don't think there was anyone who was particularly shocking on the night. I don't think anyone was a liability per se. I think actually everyone played decently well. I mean, I want more from Wardlaw, McKercher, O'Sullivan, maybe, if I'm looking at the guys who are lower on the list there. But other than that, I think everyone was decent enough and didn't maybe deserve to be in that conversation. I'll just second your Constanti stuff. Yeah, I agree with you. I think he's a player and we're going to get, maybe not going to be a superstar, but he's definitely locked his role down. Let's talk about Curtis, and then I want to talk about Zerha maybe a tiny bit more before we finish it up. Paul Curtis just looked a little bit off, like made some things happen, and I like that our midfield, especially that first half, was trying to find him 1v1 with Quainer and just back him, because him, Zerha one-on-one, if they're one out with another player, kick it to them every single time, because I think more often than not, they're going to make the right play, and I really do back them one-on-one. Curtis, 1 goal, 12 touches, took 5 marks in the game. So you can tell he's still got it and he's going to come back and he's going to get to his form. But first game back, I think it's a little bit – it sucks that he's got a first game back now. It's another week off as well, to be fair. But look, let's hope he comes out firing for West Coast and can absolutely cook them up. I think Quain is a good match for him as well. You know, physically strong, a similar sort of size, and Quain is a fantastic player. I mean, I think he took a heap of marks, think, or a bunch of intercepts.
Yeah, I would say after that first quarter, I thought Curtis looked incredible in that first quarter. He was doing everything. He was getting in the positions. After that, Quainer towed him for the rest of the game. And I love Curtis. Curtis is going to rebound and learn from that. But Quainer, just like watching the lead up to the play, like Curtis, who's a big, strong guy, obviously, would go for the body contact, and you'd see Quainer just essentially step around and then read the play better and read the flight better. He really, Quainer really did a number and beat him pretty convincingly after that first quarter in my mind. And Curtis is he's still very young. He's going to learn. He's going to be a lot better to come with this. After that first quarter, the adjustments were made and Quainer won comfortably after that first quarter.
No, I agree with that. Yeah. Just shout out to Zerha. He's having a great season, a fantastic season. I don't know if I can look up. I think maybe 32 goals for the year off the top of my head.
Wouldn't be 32. That'd be ridiculous.
30, maybe I'm talking 20. Sorry,
22.
Maybe I'm 22. I did that last week as well. I think he might have something like that for the season. I don't know if I can find it here, but just really, really good stuff by him.
Yeah.
Not many touches, massive impact. Took a hanger. I think it would be underappreciated how good that mark is. Sort of in the middle of the pack with everybody jumping, just clunked it. And he's really reliable in front of goal. And, a lot of questions, and rightly so, on Zerha. He's having, his career highs in goals on average for him per game this year as well. So he's making something out of sometimes nothing. Big question marks on him with his contract. His last few years, did he deserve the contract? Yes.
Yeah,
and he has completely squashed that. Now he's been, Curtis, fantastic. But he's been our best forward maybe consistently over the year just because Curtis missed those games. Other than that, it would have been Curtis. He's still kicking a decent amount of goals for the year as well. I know he's a little bit down on form at the moment, but, those three in our forward line, and then you can eventually add hopefully another key to that. And if Constanti comes on or a small forward, I mean, we've got a fantastic forward line in the next 2 to 3 years. So, look, love what Zerha's doing. Shout out to him. Let's go to the Sean Atlee Club champ. Now, I got absolutely roasted, Joel, last week.
For that Pinkin.
Well, for fun, putting Toby Pink there. Still some Toby Pink haters out there. And if you're hating Toby Pink, you don't love football. That is what I would say. I stand by what I said. I think all my votes were correct. But we didn't put Big X. We didn't put the helmet in there. I thought I made it clear enough on the podcast why, just because, he does that every single week. And I think those other players either knocked off bad form, playing above their level, or impacted in moments, in game-winning moments. But let's hope that we don't piss people off this week because we know how sensitive some people are. I commented back to one guy, paraphrasing, of course, but I said something like, I love how seriously everyone's taking this made-up podcast award that genuinely doesn't mean much. But, hey, it's clearly bigger than football, the Sean Atlee Club champ. And maybe I didn't know the gravity in which this award has in the grand scheme of the AFL. So, that being said, I have 4 names here, and I want you to tell me, okay? So, 3 votes is Riley Hardiman. There's no question about that. I put Simpkin as 2. And then I've got either Powell or Zerha. Now, I kind of want to go Zerha because 3 goals.
In a low goal game for us.
In a low goal game. I think that's big impact. But I do want to shout out Powell. I would go Hardiman, Simpkin, Zerha, and a shout out to Tom Powell for a really solid game. Do you have any differences to that or anyone you think I'm missing?
No, I mean, Hardiman, I think the 3, I just think from where he's been to where he's come and the improvement and the impact on this game particularly, he's been exceptional. So I'm very much so in favour of Riley. I loved his game. Jai's been leading exceptionally well. Obviously, he makes errors at times, but I think he's been, when he's going back for a goal from that 50-metre line, Like, he's probably my favourite player kicking from that distance at the moment for us. So I actually really, really like him in that role. So I'm not going to argue with your Jai one. The one vote. I mean, I loved Cherry's first half, but he fell off. I actually really loved Pink as a whole for the game, but
we don't anger the people again, mate. You could nearly convince me on some Toby Pink votes, but I think Zerha probably, if we're putting Pink and Zerha in there, I'd say Zerha probably wins that out.
Yeah, let's give it to Zerha, I guess. Well, three goals, and when he kicked a third of our goals for the game, that's pretty big impact, and contested mark and impacted the game when he needed to. Like, the goals won't give me goals. They were him working hard to get the ball to get the goal. So I'll back him and say, yeah, he deserves that one vote there.
All right, Hardiman 3.
Pink was very good on the game.
Pink was very good as well. Just like other players have been very good as well. Good. Shout out to Power, shout out to Pink, shout out to Sherry in his first half. But we've only got 3 votes to give out. We only give out maybe an extra vote for a win. I'm not giving them out for losses because I'm a tough customer. So Hardiman 3, Simkin 2, Zerha 1. Just a reminder, the Sean Adley Club Champ is not just about the best player on the ground numbers-wise. It's about heart, moments, soul, shinbone of spirit, all that sort of stuff. We're combining everything we love about stats and analytics into one big gross mush, and that is the Sean Adley Club Champ, okay? It's not just for the best player on the ground. So get that into your skulls because I mean what I say.
It's anyway, like the Brownlow, it's a vibe thing.
It's a vibe thing. Well, the Sean Adley Club Champ is more than the Brownlow, mate. I mean, Cripper wouldn't be nowhere near the Sean Adley Club Champ, to be honest. Not even in contention.
He wouldn't even get a vote.
No, I wouldn't get a vote. I'd never vote for him. Moment of the game. Golden helmet moment of the game. Oh. What is yours? Because I'm struggling.
Now, the George Wardlaw rundown tackle was exceptional.
Yeah, that was good. That was Jerry's goal out of the ruck.
Also very exceptional. Those are probably the 2 biggest moments that came to mind for me. If Jai had to kick that goal at the end of that third quarter where he's marked it, that would have been the moment.
I've got one actually that I think that got me off the couch the most.
Yeah.
Charlie Combin's spoil.
Oh, running back with
the flight when it was like a 3-on-1, and it was almost a certain goal, and he got his fist on it, put it through the points. That was the moment that I looked at it and went, "Come on, yes, let's go." That has to be it. I've got to overrule the other ones. I think that was the moment of the. And look, not many moments in this game where we're scraping from the bottom of the barrel here, but I think
that was a very big moment, and
that was a big moment, and I think that was the golden helmet moment of the game.
Yeah. Okay, I'll back you. I like Chom's. Like a lot of our defenders, and for the whole game, I thought is the key defenders running back to make those spoils, and there was a few moments where they all did it. That one by Chom was special. Like Chom from the start of the year being questioned a lot in his one-on-one. I think he's improved greatly in that space, but him impacting contests has been so much better these last 5 weeks. Like it's just been really, I think that we need a lot of credit for Chom at the moment. He's really worked on his craft and he's really settled into that spot. He's our best, you'd argue he's our best defender in that space at the moment, which is a big change from where it was.
And his one-on-one defending has improved a lot this year as well. We're not having these moments in games where like he's getting bullied almost like a Ben Mackay can sometimes. Yeah. But yeah, his one-on-one defending I think has really improved. Just a little jab of the knife there. Yeah, just a little jab. We've basically got better Ben Mackay on about half the wage, I would say. So, look. He's been really, really good, stepped up and become a proper defender. And look, I've been on the train for a while. He is a defender now. Yes, maybe late game scenarios, you swing him forward if you absolutely need, almost like the Blues swing Curnow back. Yeah. But he is a defender now. And that is why I'm concerned about Whitlock and Will Dawson not playing forward as much or maybe not coming on as forwards and that sort of stuff. But we won't get into that discussion again because I say that every single week. Maybe only one other talking point, actually, just looking at my notes here, that I did forget to ask you about. Zach Fisher, was he playing forward? Because he got a lot of ball forward of the centre, and I heard a rumour that he was training with the forwards throughout the week. He seemed to come on, and he got a few in the forward pocket and sort of half forward area. Is that what you saw in the ground?
Yeah, that was correct. He definitely the first bounce when he started on the half forward flank. That's where he started, and I think he played most of it in that. Like I think honestly, and in fairness to us, our defensive mix is really solid at the moment. Like you've got the people that are rotating through there that all can defend pretty tall, with the exception of Daniel. We're not giving away a huge amount in non-defenders at the moment. Like all of them are which was a big issue at the start of the year and a big issue last year. Like I said, when Kirch has moved from that half back to more the middle and the half forward, it's been much better for us because I think you got better defenders overall. So, but no, he definitely started half forward. He was in the forward line. That was where he was playing.
Yeah, cool. I mean, look, you're right. The back mix is pretty solid right now. I mean, Hardiman, people's criticism on Daniel I did question, and I don't think he like we and you said before as well. I don't think there's any. No. It's no coincidence that the players that seem to get scapegoated the most are the halfbacks because they've got the hardest kicks to make in football. But, he's played a really solid couple of weeks. I like what he's doing. And then, Finn O'Sullivan back there with a Riley Hardiman and with Jackson Archer to come back. And she's dropping down. She sort of played a little bit of everywhere in that game as well. It didn't feel like he was more of half forward or more of half back. He sort of just floated around where he needed to be. So, Fisher, I thought Fisher, like the first impact he had, I think he ran into the pack and like made a tackle or at least put a lot of pressure on to sort of get the ball spilling. And if he can do that in the forward line, I mean, him and Constanti can maybe try and fight it out because Fisher's on a lot of money. He's on a lot of, he's got a few years at the club. We need to invest in making him a good player and making him into a player that can contribute to this team because he's good enough. He's absolutely good enough as a player. So I would like to see him maybe have a little stint down forward. And if Constanti, say, has a couple of weeks without a goal, then maybe you go, okay, maybe Constanti can come on or be the sub or go to the twos for a week and see if Fisher can do it. But, hey, we'll see that later in the season. Other than that, I mean, look, I'm just looking at some of the overall stats from this game just to wrap this up. It's so obvious that our game style was something completely different with the amount of like disposals and things like that. 371 to 343. So we beat them in disposals, beat them in kicks. Disposal efficiency, we were just below them. Free kicks were pretty even. Collingwood got all of the little ones like they do being a bigger team. But, contested possessions, we sort of dominated. It was actually pretty even with uncontested possessions. So I don't know, but our kick mark game, I wonder if we continue to play that. I'd be really interested after the bye if we come out and try that style against the Eagles. And I would really like – I haven't watched the press conference yet. I don't know if you did, but did they ask anything about the change of style that you know of? Did you watch the presser?
I did watch the presser. I didn't see them specify about that. It was more so just – they talked a lot about how Collingwood's system was such an effective system. And
but I don't want to know that from Clarkson. We know that – God, they ask some stupid questions, don't they? Because – I think it was hashtag Kangaroos were talking about it when I was listening to their pod and, they were saying that why aren't journalists rocking up at the training ground on the Thursday or whatever saying, what does Cooper Harvey got to do to get a game? What has Geordie Payne got to do? Tell us the threshold. That's what I want to know. Yeah. I don't want to know how Clarkson feels about an umpiring decision that happened over in the West on the weekend or something like that. I couldn't care less. And it's that sort of stuff that I'm like, we just played so differently. We genuinely just rocked up to a game against Collingwood and just played a different game style and cooked for half a game. Why is nobody asking about that? It's so stupid. Anyway, rant over. It's just, God, 115 to 76 marks, 15 to 6 contested marks, 15 contested marks in a game. We had 15 for the year last year. You know what I mean? So it's just ridiculous. Like, I want to know about what we did, what Clarkson's plan was. I want to know sort of the game structure. We saw something so different and no one bloody asks about it. It pisses me off.
No, they're not. Honest. I mean, like, how the news media cycle is with these things. They're pretty bad. Just
headline fish, just see if you can get anything to chuck on the front page of the Herald Sun, I guess. But anyway, I guess it'll be left up to us podcasters, our independent fan podcast, to do the real hard-hitting analysis. Yep, and let those corporate jockeys just get taken along by the corporate machine, I guess. But anyway, look, this is almost in record time, mate. It's usually an hour 10, an hour 15.
We've done well, efficient.
And efficient, almost like North Melbourne's first half. Very efficient and quicker ball movement by us this game, which has been very, very good. I'm sure the fans will be very happy it's under an hour. So anyway, I guess we'll finish it up there. Any more thoughts, queries, things to say, Joel, before we let you go?
No, not really. We'll get to watch so we've got the VFL game today, so we'll see how we go today and see if anyone can push for selection now. Hopefully we get a few more names added to it.
Yeah, very, very true. Interested to see where Will Dawson plays. see if Griffin Logue can ever try and get back in the team. And, Luke Urquhart, the guy from the preseason, really not hearing much about him at all. So would like him to have a big game. But anyway, we'll tune in and have a look, and let's hope that we've got some guys. Will Dawson to kick 10 and play against the Eagles.
Oh, that'd be nice. I'll take that. That'd be nice.
But who comes out for him? Probably Finbar, unfortunately. Then you won't be happy. So, you got to juggle your boys, mate. You got too many kids.
No, he's. I'm all over Finbar and Will. They're both mine.
Stick with Darling, Larky, Finbar, and Will Dawson forward line. Is that what you're calling?
Darlene is here for another year, and then it'll be one of those other guys.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll let everyone ponder that. Go watch the VFL. We'll be back. We'll do some off-season. We'll do some buy content, basically. I don't exactly know what that's going to be, but we'll do a mid-season review. Who knows who we'll get on for that. Honestly, I haven't planned it, to be fair with you guys, but that's for next week. So, look, we'll still be here twice a week doing all that sort of stuff, and some interesting videos coming out. Mid-season draft as well coming up, so we've got some content coming out for that. So we'll be here covering all of that. Chat to you guys very soon. Thank you, Joel, for coming back on and giving all your expertise and your thoughts. And, chat to you very soon.
Good. Cheers.